All right, the Resident Evil 4 remake is supposed to be coming out next month on March 24th for multiple game systems, including the PS5, Xbox Series X, and the PS4, to my surprise, because I thought this was going to be a game that was going to remain exclusively on current generation game systems. But hey, more people have access to a PS4 than they do a PS5 or an Xbox Series X because the PS4 has been around for a lot longer. So I guess that makes sense. And Capcom is smart for making that game available for PS4. But this game, I do feel is going to be one that's probably going to be looked at as one of the best video games of 2023. Definitely the best survival horror game of this year. Forget about, Silent Hill 2 or what have you. This game right here is the game that everybody have been waiting to see for quite some time now, because I remember being on the live stream for Capcom's Resident Evil showcase back in October 2022, and pretty much people were like trashing almost everything if it wasn't like the Resident Evil 4 remake. And when we got to see gameplay footage of that, a lot of people lost their minds and they thought it was great and it exceeded their expectations and was just anxious for the actual release date for this game. And it doesn't surprise me because the game has a solid plot. It's very intriguing. It had, I guess, gameplay footage with graphics that looked like it exceeded like anything that I would have imagined in terms of quality. And I like how Capcom pretty much like changed up the mechanics just a little bit. Like you basically have like quick time events that add a nice touch to the game itself and makes it appear more realistic and more current gen. And I do feel that the environment and the gameplay for Resident Evil 4 looks and feels more organic compared to other installments within the Resident Evil series. And I think all those things are going to be like key qualities that attract both casuals and hardcore fans of the Resident Evil series into buying this game. Now, you look at when Resident Evil 4 came out back in 2005, when it came out, it was released for multiple game systems, and I believe within a couple of years, it managed to reach over 10 million in sales. And it's funny because the Resident Evil 2 remake from 2019 had reached over 10 million in sales as well. So as far as sales expectation is concerned, I'm expecting Resident Evil 4 to remake to sell just as much or around the same ballpark as a Resident Evil 2 remake did a couple of years ago, or even more, because Resident Evil 4 is one of the most popular installments in the entire series, probably behind Resident Evil 2. And like Resident Evil 2 came out over 20 years ago, and the fact that it was one of the best like video games of 2019 says a lot about the series. And I do feel that for the most part, the Resident Evil series was one of the few things that kept Capcom alive during the 2000s decade, along with the Devil May Cry series. And probably one of the biggest Resident Evil games from the 2000s that everybody talk about is Resident Evil 4, and then Resident Evil 5, even though it was solid, it didn't compare to 4. And honestly, it seems like after 4, like the Resident Evil series kind of just its popularity just took a nosedive and it just went off a cliff, and it hasn't quite been the same since then. So I'm not exactly sure if the Resident Evil series is just it's no longer like a huge attraction among casuals, because it seemed like the older games, like from like the from the late 90s until like the mid 2000s, was an attraction. But it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore unless they remake a older Resident Evil game. So like with like the Resident Evil 4 remake coming out next year, a lot of people wonder whether or not Resident Evil 5 is going to get a remake sometime down the future. I think Capcom's going to get to it at some point, but with Resident Evil 4, I'm not exactly sure if like Silent Hill 2 can compete with this game. And I do feel that Resident Evil 4 remake has the potential to be, I guess, the best video game of this year, but that's a bit of a stretch because we got a lot of high profile video games that's supposed to be coming out in 2023.